Greetings everyone, welcome to Chess Advanced. This is the finals of Tata Steel Rapid 2023, and here Divya is facing another Indian legend. She's facing Koneru Humpy with the black pieces, and now the thing is that whoever wins this game then gets to the very top and just wins the entire round. So wins the entire tournament. So this is going to be very interesting. This is the battle of generations. Koneru Humpy is facing a 17-year-old Divya Deshmukh, and Divya is just rated 2216 while Koneru Humpy is rated 2461. So there's a 200 or 250 point rating gap, and this is going to be an epic battle to actually ensue. And no, this is not from the FIDE World Cup. This is back in Tata Steel, and it's very weird to see that they face each other again and again at the very peak of the finals of the tournaments, and they have to actually battle it out against each other. But still, they are the world's best players, and that's going to happen again and again. So without further ado, let's start with this game here. Koneru Humpy starts with d4. Now we have knight to f6 by Divya. We have c4, e6, and knight to f3. This is the Indian game, and here just p6, and this is the Queen's Indian defense. So definitely Divya came prepared. She wants to actually win the entire tournament. She is playing splendidly well. She is 6 out of 8, and if she's able to win this, she'll get a 7 out of 9 score, and she'll be able to win the entire tournament. That would be absolutely spectacular. And here just g3 by Koneru, and we have bishop to a6, but now just comes knight bd2, and you could go for a move like d5, immediate thrust, and hit after b3. Now you play c5, and after c captures, e captures, bishop to b2, and after bishop to e7 you play e3, and position would be fine. You can get to castle, you can get the queen into the game, maybe you can just develop the bishop. Your position would be absolutely fine. But here after knight bd2 we have c5 immediately by Divya. Does it put a load towards Koneru to be able to take the advantage? Is there something that you can do to try and take advantage? You can go for a move like e4 in this position, and that would be maybe a bit too much, because you would want to actually you would be taking a bit too much space, and somewhere it could backfire, but maybe it was just way to go. But here in this position, just bishop to g2, and bishop to g2 seems like a natural move in this position. Why go for e4 when you can just try and get the castles into the game, and then you can try to attack, and so it doesn't stick to you naturally that you would want to play this. But somewhere along the line, if you actually prep this at home, then definitely e4 would be a way to go. But here just knight to c6. Now comes d captures on c5, b captures, and just castles in this position, all natural moves. So we have bishop to e7, and here just p3 castles. Now just comes bishop to b2. We have d5 immediately striking in the center. We have c captures, e captures, and rook to c1, targeting that pawn. And how do you prevent that pawn from capturing in the future? Because that is a weak pawn, because you have to understand those are hanging pawns, and you have to actually defend them, or either just trade them off, or actually just push them all the way and let them be stingent towards your opponent's position, and somewhere along the line they will benefit you to give an advantage. But if you keep them there, the thing is that if you keep them there and go into an end game, it could backfire in ways. But still, it's for now that's not a problem that you should be worried about. It is queen to b6. Now just comes rook to e1, knight to e4, and here in this position you could go for a move like this. Knight capture seems like a logical choice, but here after d captures, knight to d2, and how do you defend that pawn? Well, you just go for e3. You don't want to defend when you can just attack, and after f captures, now you play rook a to d8, and now you can understand the problem, because hey, the queen is under the shadow of the rook, so you have to move the queen out of the way. Queen to c2, but now you go knight to b4 attacking the queen, and where do you even go? If you go for a move like queen to c3 which we normally do, try to go for checkmate, but the thing is that would be completely a terrible blunder, because you can see bishop to f6 just wins a complete piece. You cannot go back. There is no other square for the queen. As you can see, all of the squares are covered, and yeah, this would be a terrible way to go. But obviously they won't fall for it, so you could go for a move like queen to e4 in this position, centralize the queen, and after bishop to g5 there is a very nice attack imminent, but most likely you'd be able to draw this game, most likely. But here after knight to e4 we have knight to e5 immediately by Koneru Humpy, and the thing is that, do you capture or do you not capture? Here in this position, Divya chooses to go for captures that, and bishop capture, because it's centralized knight. You never wanted to just remain there in your position, and the bishop pair are now almost active. Here just rook a to d8, queen to c2, and now just comes this f5, e3. Now finally going for this, but now just comes queen to e6. We have bishop to b2. The bishop was under attack, so had to move. Rook to c8. Now knight to f3, and that knight, if you push this, now seems like a decent move, but you'll always be able to get the knight to d4, and you don't want the knight to remain on d4, because then those two knights becomes absolute powerful knights, and you don't want to give up your opponent's squares. And there's a very nice saying in chess that be careful while you when you push pawns, because you cannot take them back. So it's an obvious saying, but you have to understand this. This is a valid very valid at this point. Here just rook f to d8, and now just comes queen to b1, bishop to f6, and you could go for a move like bishop captures here, and after queen captures, bishop back to f1, asking for those bishop traits, and after bishop captures, rook captures. Now you go for a5, but the thing is that that knight is definitely a thorn in your position. I mean, it's a very nice knight where you cannot even kick it off. You're going to have to play at least two tempos to be able to kick that off, and even when you do it, it's still the rooks are amazingly placed. So anyone who can try to push in this position is definitely Divya. But so here after bishop to a6, we have queen to a1, trying to put pressure towards the king side, and will you succeed in that? Well, it's just a matter of we'll see. But hey, just king to f7. Very nice move. But the thing is that this check is now available. Do you go for this or not? Hey, knight to e5 check was played by Humpy. And in this position is king to g8. We have knight to f3, king to f7, and just h4. Now just comes h6. And now here, knight to e5 check again, king to g8, and just knight to f3. So what do? Do you repeat the moves? Do you go for a draw? Or do you maybe share the championship like Nepo and Magnus did? But maybe you can do something else here. In this position is king to f7 was played, knight to e5 check again, king to g8, here knight to f3 again. But now in this position Divya deviates. After almost going for a draw, she goes for bishop captures on b2, and here after queen captures on b2, this position Divya decides and shows to the rest of the world why she is the fiercest attacking player of her time. Because in this position you could go for a move like rook to c6, that's absolutely fine. You can go rook to e8, you can go rook to f8, all engine moves, all perfectly fine. But in this position she decides to mix it up, and she decides to go for this very nice g5. And this g5 is a very risky move, because yes, you give your opponent a little bit of an advantage, but the thing is that is it enough to convert it to a win, or you would be able to attack the king side and might be able to get an advantage? Well, we're gonna have to wait and see, because here rook e to d1 was played, now king to h7. But you could also go for a move like bishop to b7. In this position, get the bishop to the right side. Here you have to attack the king side. Knight is already attacking the king side, queen is already there. All you have to do is just push those pawns and maybe try and create something in this position. After h captures, you play h captures b4, now trying to just open up lines towards the king side, but now just c4, keeping it closed. Knight to d4. Now if you go for this, queen to f6, queen to e2, and you're gonna have to defend. But yeah, I mean, Divya would definitely have chances in this position to try and go for a win. But here after rook e to d1, king to h7 was played. Now just comes h captures, queen to e5, asking for a queen trade. And does it favor Divya or does it favor Koneru Humpy? And here just queen captures on e5, knight captures was played. We're gonna have to wait and see. Here just king to g7, rook to c2, and just king to f6, attacking the knight, knight to f3, and here just g4, kicking the knight back, and may do even move the knight. Knight to e1 was played, but knight to e1 is not a good move, and engine absolutely does not like it, because there is a very amazing move in this position. I'm gonna ask you to pause the video and try and find out the only winning move in this position for Divya while I give you a couple of seconds. So congratulations to everyone who's able to find this move, and the move is the spectacular d4. And why does d4 work in this position? Well, the thing is that you have to go for captures. If you don't capture, then this becomes a very nice pass pawn. It's defended by the bishop, it's defended by the rook, there is nothing you can do. And the thing is that you cannot even double up and try to go for this, because here just knight captures would win the exchange. And if you decide to sacrifice the bishop, well, just think of it yourself. Do you really want to sacrifice the light square bishop? Because my light square bishop is going to be extremely powerful over those light squares. And the thing is that in the end game where I have the open h file, I don't think that's something you want to do. So that's why here d4 is a spectacular move, which would have won the game right on the spot. But the thing is that they was not able to find the move, because both players are playing on seconds. And when I say second, I don't mean 50 seconds or 1 minute. They are playing on 10 seconds, and that too, now you have 10 seconds increment on top of that every move. But the thing is that it just doesn't matter. 10 seconds is not enough to be able to find all of these lines and calculate that it's going to be winning. So in this position, here's c4 by Divya, and c4 is fine, but it gives away the advantage. Here bishop to f1, and now in this position, what do? Here king to e5 was played by Divya. Definitely a nice move, because you have to understand that king is the most important piece in the end game, and you would want to get the king centralized. And you can see by white's pieces state that it's not a good position, and white is not enjoying this. Although it's a draw, but you're gonna have to suffer for the rest of it. You're gonna have to just completely find the best moves from here onwards to be able to find a draw in this position. So here just b caps on c4 was played. If it was played, now you go for bishop caps on c4, and after everything gets traded off, rook captures, rook captures, rook caps on c4. Now you go for this very nice rook to d1, pinning the knight. Here you have to defend a5. Now here rook to a4, king to f6, so that captures doesn't come with the check. And after you go for this, now you go for this and challenge both of those pawns, and most likely here you'll be able to win one of them, and this position would end in a draw. But here after king to e5, rook d to c1 was played, and it's not a blunder, but again it puts Divya in the front seat, and now she has to decide what to do. She goes for this knight to g5, trying to maybe just create some chances, remaneuver the knight to better squares, and just keep Koneru Humpy on her toes, because you have to understand that more you're able to do that in time pressure, the most likely you'll be able to win the game. So here just bishop to e2 was played, but now just comes c captures, asking for a rook trade here in this position. The thing is that what you want to do is you want to trade the pieces. That's what you want to do. That's absolutely fine, because here black is controlling most of the squares, and the thing is that when you're controlling so much of the space, we know what happened in Prague and MBL case. I mean, MBL was controlling so much of the square that Prague was not able to do anything in this position, and then he absolutely collapsed after he was not able to find the one move, and that's what happens in most cases. But you want to be able to recapture first and allow black to capture. After a captures, now you play rook captures on c2, rook captures, bishop captures on e2, and after rook captures on e2, you play rook to b8, and somewhere along the line you defend it, and after defending it, or either you can just go for a counter attack as well. But the thing is that this is the way to go for a draw. But here in this position, c captures on b3, Koneru Humpy was down to 15 seconds, and not in 50 seconds, she was down to 5 seconds on the clock. And the thing is that, hey, you can do nothing in this position, because what she played completely blunders the game. She goes for rook captures on c8, and rook captures on c8 completely blunders the game, and Divya is able to find the move here. It is as simple as just rook captures on c8, and there is nothing you can do. You cannot go for this, because here your rook is hanging, so you have to recapture. And Koneru Humpy thought that this is completely a draw, but here after rook captures, not recapturing with the bishop is the idea. It just b captures on a2 was played by Divya, and this is now a very, very difficult pawn to be able to defend, and this is just very, very tensed, because here rook to e8 check was played by Koneru Humpy, king to d6, knight to c2, and bishop captures on e2. And now what do you do here? Rook to a8 was tried to be able to capture this and maybe to be able to stop the pawn, but the thing is there is a beautiful move in this position that you can play. But after first knight to f3 check was played, king goes back, and in this position the move that you want to play is a6. As simple as that. Defend the pawn, don't let the rook in, and that pass pawn is just as good as now going to promote. There is nothing you can do. No checks is going to work out. No knight can just stop it from happening. And yeah, this position is now completely winning. Even if you go for a move like rook to c8, now you play bishop to d3 attacking the knight. Knight has to go bishop to c4. Now you play this knight to c2, a5, knight to a1, knight to d2, rook to d8 check, king to c5, rook to b8, a4. You just push that pawn all the way. Don't allow knight to have more squares. And here after knight to c2, bishop to b3, you play knight to a1, knight to f3, rook to f8, and here after king to b4, you can understand what's going to happen here, and this position is very, very winning. But here after king to h1, Divya did not go for a6. She played knight to e1, and the thing is that you cannot trade, and it's still winning. I mean, it's just a little bit of an little bit of an advantage that she lost, but still winning. And here knight to a1 was played, but now just comes a6, and that's the move. And now, I mean, it's just completely over. Here rook to c8 was played, bishop to d3, rook to c1, knight to c2, and rook captures. Here bishop captures was played, but now just comes knight captures, and just king to c5 was played. And here you can resign king to g2, but just king to c4 was played, and it was on this move, on move 51, that the legend Koneru Humpy resigned the game, and Divya at just 17 years of age was able to win this game in a spectacular manner. If you think that you can just maybe get the king into the game and try to stop this and knight can maybe block, it's just not going to happen. You play king to f1, king to c3, knight to a1, king to b2, king to e2, and after king captures, even if you get it out, I mean, it doesn't make any sense, because next move I'm just going to promote, and whatever you do in this position, next move I'm just promoting, and there is, I mean, nothing you can do. That's why here after this move, here Koneru Humpy resigned the game, and Divya was able to achieve this spectacular feat, getting 7 out of 9, where Ju Wenjun is playing, where Harika is playing, where Koneru Humpy is playing, where Vantika is playing, all these legends, where even Leiting Ji is playing. I mean, all these legends in a single frame and able to get a win, a 7 out of 9 ahead of them, winning the entire tournament at just 17 years of age, showing to the rest of the world, I mean, that she's an absolute legend, and she's bound to become, I mean, she's a genius prodigy right by itself. And I mean, just getting that recognition ahead of all of these players. And what makes it more amazing is at the closing ceremony, at the right hand side, you had Ju Wenjun, 5 times world champion. At the left hand side, we had Koneru Humpy, the world rapid champion. And in the middle, there was just 17-year-old prodigy Divya Deshmukh, just winning. I mean, being at the very top there and showing to the rest of the world that she's an absolute legend. She's there for a reason, because she plays spectacular chess, and she's bound to become something more. And that something more is going to be shown in candidates that's going to be coming, maybe as a world chess champion challenger in a few months. But if that happens, that's definitely going to be a sight to behold at just 19 years of age. That happens, and definitely this is a world chess champion in the making. So yeah, thank you all for watching. I'll be coming back with such amazing games, so stay tuned to the channel, stay updated, and I'll be seeing you guys very, very soon. Thank you very, very much for watching.